So thank you guys for joining. Thank you to all the Next Tech folks. Thank you, Carrie. Thanks, Jill and Karen and everybody. They do such a great job. And I always love when they have me speak. So thank you guys for attending and putting your eyeballs on the screen this direction for a little bit and are interested in what I do at Microsoft. So these are the different things I was going to cover, and I definitely want to make sure to answer as many questions. I like to do as interactive as I can, and I will kind of try and keep an eye on chat. But thanks all. So my name is Hope Foley. So my job right now, I have been at Microsoft a little over 9 years, and I work in the data and AI space. I am a data and AI senior technical specialist, and I'll talk a little bit about that, what that means in just a second. But I live in New Pal. My son actually just went to school because of a 2-hour delay. I'm in New Palestine, kind of east side of Indy, if you're not familiar with it. I grew up in Anderson, though, so shout out to anybody in A-Town now. But so I've been in data more years than I'm willing to admit anymore. I have 2 kids. I have a daughter at IU. She's a sophomore at IU, and I have a son who's at New Pal. He's a junior. So they get mortified every time I say I'm going to talk to the groups. Can you imagine your mom out there talking to folks your age? It'd be so embarrassing. So just a little bit about my kind of path. I love working with the Next Tech folks and telling a little bit of my story. I was one of the Next Tech kids that I was telling my story one time. It cracked me up. They kind of called me out on calling myself white trash. I don't mean it as an insult, but that was kind of the quickest way. I didn't see it as an insult, and I was kind of proud that I came from, really, kind of white trash, poor roots in Anderson, Indiana. So I went to IU for a little bit, but I was so broke, and I was, stretching my mom's dollars pretty far at IU, being lost. When I first went to IU, I told them I wanted to own a gym one day, so you can see how much things have changed. By the second semester of my freshman year, I started to hear about, working in tech. It was a male-dominated field. It still kind of is a little bit, but I saw that as a challenge. I always loved kind of beating guys at their own games, like playing pool. I wanted to beat them at playing pool and catching fish and stuff like that. So I was a little nudged into looking at it, and I really just wanted to get out and pay bills and stop, making my mom work so hard to kind of put me through school. So I started my second semester at IU. I started looking into tech. Really struggled at the classes I took there. Back then it was a little harder to, kind of Google or Copilot. That wasn't the thing for sure. I kind of struggled, and I was like, I'm broke, but I still kind of want to do this tech thing. And I went to Ivy Tech. So I have an associate's. I thought about going back and getting my 4-year degree, but hey, I work at Microsoft. So I don't know. So kind of jumping ahead, I went to Ivy Tech. I got my associates in computer information systems and took any job they would give me out of the gate. And I don't think, thank you, Jude. No, I've come a long way, but I am proud of where I come from. So I took any gig. I was basically copying and pasting data in between spreadsheets at that EDI developer gig. And then Conseco called, and they called me an application developer. I didn't develop anything. I really supported I was kind of tier 2 support for some certain specific financial application systems. I started then at a DBA consulting company called PTI, Perpetual Technologies. And that's where I really started to get into data. While I was at Conseco, I started to become a database administrator for SQL Server DBA. And then when I went out and consulted, I was a DBA consultant. moved into business intelligence. One of the things that really helped me become known and also helped me get into the gig at Microsoft was around the time I started consulting. So they started pestering me to speak, and I don't know, sometimes the universe kind of, you're scared to death to do it, but you kind of know in your gut it's going to be good for you. It was one of those things. So I was scared to death to speak, but I took some Pepto-Bismol and got over it, and it got easier and easier. And it's one of the things I love doing. I love coming to speak to folks. I don't usually talk about myself as much, but Jill and folks say that this is helpful. So let me know if it's ever helpful to tell you guys this. But okay, kind of getting into the day-to-day. I wanted to make sure I talk about what I do. So I'm in a lot of meetings. This is a question, but nice. Thank you. I say I don't break any IT stereotypes. I'm going to try and make sure I answer a little bit of the questions too. Ricky, yeah, I think I have the best gig in the world. I do have to go to a lot of meetings, but hey, it's work. It's not rainbows and gumdrops. So I do have to go to a lot of meetings, but it is fun. So this is a little bit of kind of what I do for a living. I am in meetings a lot. So I'm a technical specialist. They call me kind of technical pre-sales. I focus on the data and AI technologies. So I'm usually paired up with a couple, 2 or 3, maybe more sales folks who specialize kind of in the data space. And I'll talk a little bit more about different roles you can get into at Microsoft that I encounter. But yeah, I work with customers all the time and help them figure out what to do with their data. They pay me to be smart on data technology, and I was kind of doing that already as part of my career. So yeah, I love my gig. I feel like I am super blessed to be in this place. Is it like working at Google? So yeah, I've never worked at Google, but I do have friends who've been there, friends that who have asked me to come and interview. And yeah, the interview process at Google sounded, I called it the gauntlet from what I heard about it. So it was a tough interview process, but happy to talk about that a bit more. So most of my days are filled with meetings where customers, are confused about, fill in the blank data and AI technologies. I focus a bit more now on the data technologies. I'm talking a lot about Microsoft Fabric and Purview right now, Azure SQL, a lot of different data technologies, analytics, Power BI, those kind of things from a tech standpoint. But I help customers kind of figure out what they want to do, get them kind of going and started in the technology, building, presentations a good bit, which is good. I do start POCs. I'm doing some POCs with customers right now where I'm trying to kind of help them get up running and get going. I have to keep up to date on so many things. That's a little bit of the downside to my gig is it's a bit overwhelming sometimes, my anxiety. I have to keep that in check. But yeah, and I think it's Brandon. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name. Yeah, Tristan, that is a sword in the background. If I have time, I'll get to that. But that was a gift from a friend, a super cool gift. So Brandon, I do write a little bit of code. I'm doing a lot more Python these days. So I'm working in a lot of Spark technologies, working with Python, Spark SQL. I'm doing that a bit. T-SQL still, PowerShell, DAX. Those are some of the ones that come to mind that I deal with more right now. So I do work mostly, Dane, I do work mostly from home. Yeah, I do a lot of Teams meetings and or Zoom and or sometimes. Oh, I'm sorry, Brandon. POC means proof of concept. Customers will come in and say, hey, I like the sound of Shiny Widget and you explained it pretty well, but my people are new to it. Will you help get us going? So yeah. What is a POC? Oh, thank you guys. I apologize. That is something very Microsofty too. I felt like I came in and I had to learn a whole lot of acronyms, and sometimes I feel like I've said sentences in acronyms. So thanks for calling me out and making sure I explain those. So yeah, cool. So yeah, I do a lot of POCs with customers. I do get to go speak at conferences sometimes. That's something I really enjoy doing. Something I do kind of just for fun on the side sometimes. Kind of how I started speaking was at events that were kind of work, kind of a little bit of fun, kind of a little bit of meeting friends in my industry, called SQL Saturdays. And I ran one in Indy for 10 years. COVID, we had to get canceled for COVID, and maybe I'll bring that back eventually if I can find a venue. So, what is the average salary in a year? Oh, that is very dependent upon, where you are in your career. I remember I started off my very first kind of real gig. I was getting in the range of $30,000 a year and thought I was making it, I was making it rain money. But yeah, that was quite a while ago, and I definitely couldn't provide for my family on that. But there's quite a range. There's quite a range. Sorry, my coffee, my doohickeys stuck to my coffee. You guys have so many great questions. Thank you. Here, let me make sure I get to one other thing. I want to make sure there are more than just my kind of role, and talk a little bit about other roles and how I, I'm in the sales org, which is a really big part of Microsoft, going out and selling the technologies that the developers build. But yeah, you guys have started asking about some of the, questions about some of the other roles. I do have a friend who lived in Indianapolis. He was a local guy. He is very young. I feel like he was 26 when he came in and started as, brand new data scientist. So he was big into data science and very young, and he went very far, very fast. And he's a data scientist working for the Xbox team. So I can't imagine. I don't know. It kind of blows my mind, and I get excited. I wish I could talk to him. Maybe I can get him to come and talk. You guys might be excited to talk to him. But he is a data scientist for Xbox. So there's a lot of people that kind of support the sales organization side. And, I'm paired up with a salesperson who, they might handle some meetings and talk to customers before they kind of pull me in if it gets kind of heavy technical. Those folks are fairly technical, and they're more on the sales side though. But they can make crazy money. So there's a bonus structure with the sales folks, and they can make crazy bank, like twice their normal salary if they hit a sales number. It's a little bit more devastating though if they don't. So you can see that's the CSAs and GBBs, I see those questions coming through. So a CSA is a cloud solution architect. That's actually the role I had ahead of being a technical specialist. So a lot of times, if you are ever in a Microsoft meeting where, you're our customer and, you are a big customer, they might bring 8 different people to the meeting. There are account execs who kind of talk to this high level CEO people. There's account technology strategists who try and pay a little bit of attention and know who to go get if we need to get a specialized conversation, whether it's M365 or, all of these different technologies. They might come and get me and a specialist. So there's a sales specialist that usually comes with me to the meeting. And if we're talking data or AI, there's usually also infrastructure people. So networking and, making the two, making your on-prem environment talk to Azure and all of those kind of things. That's what other flavors of technical specialists might cover. And then also if it gets heavier than I'm able to do with the customer, because I support all of customers for education on the East Coast. That's a lot. I try and move pretty fast so I can help a lot of people. I might hand it off to what is a CSA. A CSA is also a techie. This is I'm a self-identifying proud nerd. They might hand it off to another nerd like me to go deeper with the customer and be more hands-on and, you know, do like a 6-week kind of project kind of thing. So cool. Thank you guys for the questions there. I wanted to make sure to get through, and now it's all questions. So I just wanted to kind of talk about a little bit of the other roles. There are also definitely all the time I'm hearing more and more interesting ones. I actually don't remember if I pulled it up anywhere. Let me see here. So I want to make sure to, oh, can you see? You guys can't see my screen, can you? You can only see the slides. Okay, I'm going to put in the chat, or it's actually careers. This is pretty easy to remember, careers.microsoft.com. If you go there and then play along, because you can't see my screen, it's still on the slides version. There are so many different types: consulting services, business operations, finance. Microsoft's a big place. So there are other ways other than tech, but there's a lot of different technical pieces. I want to make sure we can continue the conversation. So I'll go ahead and leave the slide up here for the rest of the Q&A portion. I got till 9:35 with you guys, or am I done? Are they going to give me the hook in a second? I knew it was a short amount of time, but I can't remember how I'm doing on time-wise, but I'm going to make sure I answer the questions. Oh, GBB. Thank you, Wyatt. So GBB is what they call a global black belt. Sometimes they have different specializations. So they might be very specialized in like a certain kind of migration or a certain type of technology or a certain vertical. There's a lot of different verticals. So like healthcare. I'm in education, by the way. So that's part of the reason I also love coming to speak for these groups. So it's over. Oh, thank you all. 9:50. Oh, we got plenty of time. So yes, I can work remotely. So you guys are asking so many questions. You're keeping Carrie on her toes over here. The most used coding language. So there are so many different coding languages I run into. One of the other reasons that they might have another person in that Microsoft meeting where there's a whole bunch of us is app dev. People that do a lot of app dev focused work might be using completely different languages. I hear a lot of JavaScript still from their side of the fence. I'm dealing with a lot of Spark developers, a lot of data scientists, a lot of people doing medallion architectures all the time, working with data and how to land it and analyze it. So I deal with a lot of Python lately, T-SQL, Spark SQL. I do a lot of also ETL work, which is exact, transact, load, taking data from here and pumping it over there and making it look nicer than usually some JSON upstream from the app dev type folks. So are there any civil engineering jobs at Microsoft? Probably. I don't run into those too much. I know my daughter, she's looking at getting into like HR degrees. You know, Microsoft is so huge. I would imagine so, but I'm not familiar. Brock, great question. What's your best piece of advice for someone who wants to get better in this field? Justin, one of the things that I started doing that really helped me was going to local user groups. So a lot of times there's local user groups that meet once a month. It's just folks in the area. You get a slice of pizza. We had some yats the other night, and someone will present. And I get to meet people in the industry, but I started meeting people at user groups that spoke. I started speaking at different user groups. It helped me become more known in the industry. It helped show I knew some stuff kind of I was out there presenting on, the different things I wanted to present on. So I was trying to, kind of build my brand out there. They also had these kind of events where I would speak, and that's how I became an MVP. So if you do kind of community, so Microsoft has this MVP program. That's what some of that stuff up there is. if you become kind of an expert in a Microsoft technology and you promote it and blog and, you know, speak on it and those kind of things, that's what the MVP distinction means. So a lot of consultants were really, really wanting to do that. But get involved locally. You tend to meet people that might be your next gig that helps you. You know, it's very important to be networking, whether you're in school, out of school, you know, keep networking, because it's usually you get a gig because you know somebody who knows somebody, or, you know, those things. I use Bing instead of Google, but which is more advanced in your opinion? That's a good question. So I tend to use the Microsoft browsers a lot because my machine is paid for and loaned to me from Microsoft. So I tend to have a lot of those. I love Edge. I love Copilot in Edge. So I'm actually, a lot of times I'm kind of using Copilot more now for the really tough searches kind of thing. But I was never, and this is silly, but I was looking up memes. You know, half my life is probably looking for the right meme whenever I get a chance to. I don't usually put memes in, you know, professional presentations, so I sneak them into a lot of my sessions, just being goofy and entertaining myself. So, but no, great question, Brandon. What are the downsides specifically about working with data and cloud issues such as sleep schedule problems or motivation? Wow, that's a loaded question, Gabrielle. I think you, yeah. How did you know how my COVID years went? No, everybody kind of had that with, you know, kind of motivation. So working with data and cloud, there will, you know, there will always be issues. You know, customers can kind of roll their own Azure in funny, weird ways. I run into stuff all the time, so it's challenging, but I love, you know, figuring out and tackling problems. So I usually am pretty good about that. And I love helping people, so it helps me kind of, you know, just have that instant, you know, gratification of how I'm kind of motivated. But everybody kind of burns out, and I try, and I'm being better this year about my mental health, getting out of the house, like working from home. I get a little cabin fevery, and in the winter it kind of layers on a bit because I can't go outside for walks and things. So C++ for robotics. Does Microsoft use that form of code at all? C++. So I tend to not run into that as much. I do tend to hear that a lot. C++ is definitely, I feel like any coding language is going to help you understand the next one better. I don't know how to write a lot of, you know, I can't sit down and write out Python, but all my like T-SQL learning, my PowerShell learning, all of those have helped me. I do kind of hear about C++ from time to time, not as much. I do tend to hear Microsoft has always been a very C-sharpy place. So if I do hear code like that, I'm tend to hearing kind of more C#. I'm hearing JavaScript about a lot more. So did the Luca trade? That's a basketball player, right? I don't think his trade affected me much, but I could be wrong on what that's referring to. If I didn't work at Microsoft, what would you have done? Shiloh, I think about my past, you know, talking about like, and I'm using another term, don't be offended here if I'm, you know, kind of white trash hood rats were where I came from. Yeah, knowing my path, you know, and choices in the past could have, you know, I could have lived on, you know, my future here at Microsoft could have been very shaky at one point. I did have some friends who made terrible decisions with, you know, what they did. So yeah, if I didn't work at Microsoft at one time, I said I wanted to be a chiropractor, and I didn't even remember that. That was in my high school yearbook. So yeah, I could have seen myself doing a lot of different things, but I really did. I'm so glad tech found me. I just wanted to make money and get out. And I kind of like the idea of being a woman in a male dominated field because, hey, I get a little extra motivated when people tell me I can't. And yeah, one of my presentations, I pulled up a picture my daughter drew of me, and it says, go ahead and tell me I can't, because that's super motivating for me. Some jerks in my past have motivated me to be better in tech. So yeah. So coding is very high-end, stressful job, or is it more of a laid-back sort of work? You know what? I'm in meetings so much where I'm just dealing with people and the peopleness of people. And sometimes they're great, and sometimes they're those energy vampires that suck the energy out of me. Sometimes tech is relaxing for me, so if I can sit down and code and get into the tech, and I do have an opportunity to be in it a lot, it's kind of relieving for me. It's get away from those humans and all of their whininess and problems, and go into some code. So. Oh, nope, I sent a request on LinkedIn. Cool. Yeah. Please hit me up on LinkedIn, whichever. Did I put? Yeah, I am on Twitter. I'm not on Twitter as much, and it's not any political thing. I just was tired of them cramming Elon stuff down my throat. How many coding? Let's see here. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I catch all these. You guys are asking really good. What are some more important subjects to learn for your field other than coding? Oh, Brock, patience. Just being a little stubborn doesn't hurt either. I feel like a lot of this technology, some of these people are brilliant, but they say it in ways where I'm like, oh, I had to read that blog post 3 times. I was stubborn enough to read it 3 times because I really enjoy, understanding, and I like breaking things down simpler. So I've just been communication, and I know you guys are going to struggle with that, but please make sure you communicate. If you can't talk and speak and express your thoughts, your ideas, step up and, do those things, it's going to be tough. So communicating, speaking well, like presenting has been I've become obsessed with, it can make sense in my head all day long, but if I can't relay the information to you in a way that's helpful, that's been something I really, I'm like, well, why didn't you just say it easier? Why didn't you just simplify it? I like doing those kind of things. So, is working at Microsoft your dream job? Do you foresee yourself working here for long? Yeah, I hope they keep me around, Elijah. I hope this is the one for me. I hope we go steady forever. Never say never. I do try and keep myself out there. I have friends who've gone to companies like Databricks and other places. So never say never, but I really do enjoy. I enjoy this gig. I've had a lot of the same gig for 9 years though, and it can be a tough place when the manager. I have a great manager right now. That's another piece of advice is. People come and go. I try and kind of wait out if a manager can make or break your gig at any job you have. So I always think that's important. What is the hardest, Tristan? What is the hardest part of working in tech, and what is the easiest part of working in tech? Paying the bills is pretty nice in tech usually, although. Some of these, you guys have probably heard about, you guys hear the big layoffs. Microsoft is currently going through a layoff phase right now, and being a cog in a big giant wheel, you feel a lot more expendable. So that's one of the hardest parts in tech right now, but tech is still a good, it's one of the better places to be. Ola, when do you have free time? So I have a flexible schedule. That's a nice thing. I'm usually tied to my desk from kind of 9 to 5-ish to make sure I'm having meetings with customers when they need to have meetings. But I do have a bit of flexibility to control my calendar a bit. That is something really nice. If my kids need me to do something, I can kind of control that. And Microsoft, they do have now unlimited paid time off. So if you can work it out with your manager to take time off, I can take time off whenever I want. I don't have a certain number of hours or days that accrue up. So Humans have the amazing ability to resent humans. So I struggle. Yeah, yeah. People. Yeah, this tech would be easy if people weren't involved. I say a lot. So yeah, humans are the harder part, but that's the nature of things. What is this? That sword? How are we doing time wise? Okay, we got 5 more minutes. What does that sword in the background mean to you? So the story on the sword, super quickly. One of my best friends from college, she was talking about how her kids, the biggest hit Christmas gift wise was a sword. Um, I was like, heck yeah, swords are really cool, and she sent me one. So that was the story. So it does mean a lot to me because one of my good friends gave it to me just because I was kind of going on about how cool swords are. So. What order should we learn the coding languages? Anonymous? I don't know. I don't know that there is. That's a personal preference thing. I feel like I learn more by, I tell customers I never read the documentation first. I kind of bang on it and see if people, because I know my customers aren't going to read the documentation either. So I want to try and see what they're gonna run into. I call it intuitivity testing. But yeah, no, it's difficult to say what order of language you should just let your gut guide you. But Python, JavaScript, those are the ones I hear a lot. But there's a lot of different languages. Excel formulas. You know, I never hate on anybody using Excel spreadsheets because the world really runs on them. A lot of times I'm dealing with customers who come to me with, hey, I got this a big spreadsheet problem. So yeah, Excel formula language isn't bad to know, and DAX was built on it, data analytics language. Oh boy, what's my favorite book? So I've been going on and buying copies of The Untethered Soul for folks. I heard about it, so I've had some, kind of anxiety, mental health struggles that I've been working on. That helped me get out of my head a little bit. So thank you, Anonymous. But yeah, it's called The Untethered Soul, and there's a couple others from that. So, what is the hardest project you have worked on in the tech field? Oh, Tristan. Well, one of the hardest projects was mostly because of a jerk face. So I had a customer, customers can be jerk faces too. They come in and, they don't want my widget, but their boss is making them listen to me. Those are always fun meetings to have. I was dealing with a project and the customer, I don't think they wanted my tech, but they wanted to run me through the ringer. And I built the solution for them 3 ways and they still were, nitpicking. So that was one of the hardest projects that comes to mind lately at Microsoft. Yeah, so that was, and thank you for the hair comment, Anonymous. I appreciate that. Do you need to have good grades to get your job? I would say no, but it never hurts. I always feel like, the stuff you do, the stuff you can bring to the table when you come to an interview that make you stand out, all of that is more important. No one interviewed me no one asked me about my grades necessarily, but you should do well and get into good schools and get good grades. But you need to think about too, like blogging set me apart, speaking at events set me apart. Some of the best, I interview at Microsoft too. And one of the best interviews I had, she didn't know the technology. So on the resume, on paper, she looked terrible, but she came and said, I've never worked with your technology, but I analyze my finances. So I'm going to show you the Power BI report that I built on my finances. And she blew me away. So anything you can do to show you have value, that you've done it, whether it's speaking, blogging, those kind of things, YouTube videos. That's why I got these lights. I don't think they let you on YouTube unless you have these cool lights, those kind of things. So anything you can do to kind of help bring, pile on the good stuff, ammunition to your interviews and you can express it well in the interview, that's probably going to be most important, at least for the interviewing part. You guys are at the part where you just got to get into school and start building some cred. So yes, get good grades, Kennedy. That's never going to hurt you. I had good grades. I was always one of those firstborn overachiever types. So gave me the anxiety, but it also helped me get ahead a little bit. So you got to take the balance with that. Yeah, I know it's a time you guys got to go. Thank you so much for all the questions. It makes me feel like you guys are interested, and I hope this helps. I do get a bonus, Elijah. I missed that one. I'm sorry if I missed these. They were coming in so fast. Yeah, I do get to work from home if I'm sick. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of the sessions. And thank you, Next Tech folks.